Hello, everyone. Welcome to this session. My name is Jenny Walden with United Way of King County, where I'm the Associate Director of Ending Poverty, and I'm joining you all from rainy and overcast Seattle, Washington. Today's session will be focused on breaking down barriers to food access and innovative home delivery models that United Way of King County has set up with partners since the pandemic. We have 3 learning objectives together today. First, we're going to learn about how United Way of King County and partners are tackling food insecurity by scaling 2 strategies that have emerged during the pandemic. We're going to learn how a partnership between United Way of King County, over a dozen food banks, Safeway, and DoorDash are providing thousands of weekly food deliveries, including customized culturally appropriate groceries to households who need it. And we're going to learn about how United Way is leveraging AmeriCorps and collaborating with partners to scale home delivery of federally reimbursed meals to 4,000 kids across 20 affordable housing sites. So to start with, a little bit about United Way of King County. Our vision is that together we're building a community where people have homes, students graduate, and families are financially stable. And our North Star has been over the past 5 years that we're supporting with 50,000 people with gaining economic stability and footing. And that's so important now, especially in the wake of COVID. Before COVID-19, here's some just information about different aspects of challenges in our community that people are facing. So here in Seattle, Washington, King County, Washington, 12% of families live below the poverty level. 1 in 6 children experienced hunger each year. Here in King County, 100,000 students accessed free and reduced price meals. 12,000 people experienced homelessness each night, 30,000 throughout the year. And Black, Indigenous, and other people of color have been and continue to experience poverty, homelessness, and hunger at disproportional rates. Since the start of COVID, which is not unique to our community, and I know is shared by all of you who are participating today, there has been an increase in hunger in our community. There's high unemployment rates, increased need for cash assistance to meet basic needs right now and to weather financial shocks as many people are experiencing job loss and income disruptions. We continue to see major racial disparities in the impact and who is impacted by poverty and hunger. And a lot of our work at United Way and our programs, we've had to adapt, like so many, to deliver programs while social distancing, but also meeting the needs of the community. So here's some just high level statistics around food needs in King County. We do know that food insecurity has nearly doubled after the implementation of strategies to slow the spread of COVID. So since March in our community, food insecurity has doubled. Food needs increased 7 times the rate they were before, becoming the second most common reason for King County residents to call seeking assistance with social services. And that's to our local 211 hotline. And it is that and housing are the top 2 needs in our community right now. We know enrollment in basic food assistance programs have increased, which is good, but there's more work to do there. And policies have enabled new resources or expanded existing resources, but some are set to expire. So we need to be mobilizing around those policies. So United Way's food security response, I'm going to first share a little bit about what we were doing before COVID, and then dive into 2 ways our approach has really adapted in response to COVID. So at United Way of King County, we call our program and initiatives around food insecurity our Fuel Your Future program. And the history of our work in partnering with others to address hunger started back in 2011. Prior to that, we had long time invested in the emergency food system, but this is where our work really started to tackle some of the on-the-ground food delivery, especially accessing federal meal programs that are underutilized. So in 2011, we launched our work and focused on the summer meals program and accessing SFSP. In 2014, United Way began partnering with schools around school breakfast and learning what are the ways in which we can help increase access to school breakfast, knowing that it's so important for kids and their education. In 2015, Fuel Your Future officially launched in partnership with No Kid Hungry and focused primarily on school breakfast and particularly breakfast after the bell. Over the years, we worked towards statewide policy legislation, and in 2018, breakfast after the bell legislation passed. We spent the last several years working with school districts across the state of Washington to implement breakfast after the bell. And then in 2020, in the midst of helping many school districts shift to breakfast after the bell, all school districts in Washington closed suddenly, and we all shifted our work to expand our work in Fuel Your Future in response to COVID-19. So before COVID-19, and I mentioned this a little bit, a lot of our work focused on school meals access. So that includes technical assistance around breakfast after the bell, providing grants for after school meals. We ran an annual breakfast challenge that was statewide for several years. We provided support with free reduced price meals, signups and access to that form and option for families. And then throughout all of this, we've always deployed AmeriCorps members as a part of our food security strategy. But in the past, it's really focused in the K through 12 school environment. Now, our work has since expanded. We have greater focus on holistic community food access, and it's expanded to include greater support of our food banks, greater focus on out-of-school meals programs, focus on whole family food security versus just accessing child nutrition programs, and strategies to get food directly to people's homes and outreach for SNAP. And we continue to have an eye towards 2021 and the continued COVID-19 economic recovery. Out of the pandemic, two key strategies sort of were piloted and have emerged for this year and heading into 2021. And that's where I'm going to focus in for the rest of the presentation. One of the strategies is offering home delivery of groceries in partnership with our food bank network, Safeway and DoorDash. And then the second strategy is providing holistic food support to affordable housing communities with home delivery of meals for kids. You'll notice both of these strategies focus on bringing food directly to people where they live. And we've found that that's a much needed resource in our community. And we've been fortunate to be able to stand up these really good programs that help meet that need. So let's dive in. So first, grocery home delivery. So we know and we hear from our community often that a number of households are facing increased barriers to accessing our local food banks. Our food banks have done tremendous work to serve the communities in which they are sort of embedded. And there's this sort of broad recognition that for lots of complicated and not so complicated reasons, folks are just facing increased barriers with accessing their local food bank. So our work to address that really focuses on leveraging a partnership with DoorDash and local food banks to offer weekly home delivery of food. We take a leadership role in managing food bank relationships and client signups, and I'll go into that in just a moment. And we are focused on expanding options for culturally relevant food options, particularly through our partnership with Safeway and the ability to select certain items to include in grocery bags. So generally how it works, a box of essential groceries or bag of culturally appropriate foods is prepared either at the food banks, and so we're partnering with over a dozen food banks across King County, or a local Safeway store in an area where maybe the food bank is at capacity or where the food bank is not yet on board. So those bags are prepared and waiting. A DoorDasher is scheduled to come and pick up the food. So They have the home address of where they're delivering the food, and the food, when it's needed, is marked sort of at the pickup spot, so it's designated for that particular household. And then lastly, of course, the DoorDash driver delivers it to a household in need, and the family gets that grocery delivery. This is happening on a reoccurring weekly basis unless the household communicates with us that they want to skip a week or sort of opt out moving forward. It is something that once they sign up for it, it is just sort of expected. So a little bit about the model evolution. We began the pilot with United Way Worldwide and DoorDash and 3 food banks serving 200 households in July 2020. So it feels so much longer than it actually was, but we just started this in July. Since then, we've expanded it in a couple different ways. So first, we did a massive expansion with food bank partnerships to open up more geographic regions in King County. The one limiting factor of DoorDash is that the delivery needs to be made within 10-mile radius of the pickup point. So it was important for us to add additional food bank partners just across our geography. We've also mobilized and deployed around 62 AmeriCorps across a lot of hunger initiatives, many of which are focused on supporting this home delivery model at food banks. So food banks, when they join this partnership, we're eager to provide them with funds if needed, but also this additional people, power, capacity. And by the end of August, we are serving about 1,000 households weekly. After that, we've partnered with Safeway to add Safeway grocery bags in key regions, and also to really start piloting culturally appropriate food bags. We started our first pilot with a local mutual aid group that had been serving the Vietnamese community, and we were able to work together to identify the appropriate sort of grocery items that made sense to be delivered on a weekly basis, and where it made sense to rotate items and things like that to help meet the need of that particular community. It also allowed the mutual aid group, who had been relying on volunteers and other funding, to shift their resources to other things and leverage our sort of infrastructure to support the families with the food resources. And then where we're at now is we continue to reach towards 3,000 weekly deliveries, and we are continuing to expand the number and depths of our partnerships as we're in November. I did want to share our sign up form for those that you may be interested. So we have a public access sign up form. You can go to the United Way King County website. It will pop up. It is open for anyone. We do have some sort of language in here around the requirements to receive the delivery, but we really want to trust our neighbors, and they are self-identifying their need, and we trust them with that. And so we do ask that they live in King County, Washington, or they're unable to access their local food bank in person, or unable to afford groceries to qualify for this service. And they're able to adjust sort of if they receive deliveries at any time once they sign up. The different partner roles. So United Way is really at the center of the partnership. So we sort of own that client sign up form. We handle majority of customer service, communication, and we do all the communication and coordination with the food banks. When clients sign up, we're the ones who sort of message that to DoorDash and schedule the pickup times, while also talking with the food banks. Same thing with Safeways. We're the active problem solvers, and we address capacity issues wherever we can with either funding or, like I said, people power through AmeriCorps. The food banks and Safeway stores, their main role is to prepare the bags or boxes of groceries that are up to 35 pounds weekly, and identify the pickup windows. And then we sort of make everything sort of fall in from there. And then DoorDash has been really wonderful. We work with them at a national level and submit the schedule and the needs, and then they route local DoorDashers according to the food bank pickup schedule and client requests. And that's where how all the puzzle pieces fit together. The impact so far has been incredible. By Thanksgiving, so just in the next couple of weeks, we expect to be at over 2,800 weekly deliveries to households who have signed up for this service. These will be coming from local food banks or Safeway, and every week we get about 200 new requests. So it's a very much needed resource, and we're continuing to sort of build out the model as the requests come in. Nearly 70% of the households who have signed up for home deliveries self-identify as people of color. The majority of households accessing this service live in South King County, and I call this out because residents in this region of the county are disproportionately bearing the economic impacts of COVID-19. So it's been important for us to prioritize our services and outreach in that area. So some client feedback, I'll just sort of read it because it speaks for itself. One client shared, "It has been a great deal of support while we seek employment and get back to our feet. You were our lifeline." And then a case manager messaged us because case managers have been key in connecting their clients with the service. As a client got their first food delivery box last week and said that she was so grateful since she hadn't eaten in 2 days. She was so happy just to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So that's our DoorDash home delivery model, and I'm going to transition over to our housing community model that has also since started since the pandemic. So a little bit of context. We know as a community, we have high rates of hunger at our housing authority properties. There's a number of housing authorities in our area. The main ones are Seattle Housing Authority and King County Housing Authority. We more, broadly work with the YMCA of Greater Seattle and local housing communities to offer on-site meals access, and I'll go into a little bit more detail in a bit. The way it works is we bring external food resources to properties, and we are offering home delivery of meals for kids, and with the goal of sort of being present there, being active in the community, and building authentic relationships with families. Our goal for this year is that we are connecting 4,800 kids with daily meal deliveries, and that 600 households receive referrals or access to additional wraparound resources. The model evolution. So this started back in the spring with a pilot that just started pretty soon after all the schools closed. With a partnership between the YMCA and Seattle Housing Authority to do home delivery of meals at 10 locations in April 2020. And we were delivering SFSP meals at that time. We mobilized AmeriCorps members and also a huge contingent of volunteers to bring the meals directly to people's homes. We expanded those locations for the typical summer meals time. So we took those 10 locations and then in Seattle, then expanded outwards to the rest of King County, again, focusing on South King County, which I mentioned before is an area to prioritize with these services. As we entered towards the fall, we sort of took all the learnings from our pilot work over the spring and summer and really galvanized a partnership and strategy alongside the YMCA to bring on 20 affordable housing locations, predominantly in South King County, over the course of this year. And we deployed a team of 15 AmeriCorps members to support that effort. And then where we're at now is we're currently offering food supports at 14 properties and on our way to bringing on additional properties to hit that goal of 20 plus by January. And the partners there will be a combination of Seattle and King County housing authorities and then other housing partners. Our partner roles. So United Way, we sort of lead the overall initiative strategy in overarching resource mobilization. So people and funding resources. We've since launched, we brought on additional AmeriCorps because it was found that we needed additional capacity. We support with volunteer mobilization and then funding where it's needed. We hire and onboard the AmeriCorps team and then we hand them over to the Y. We are focused on wraparound support. So United Way has a whole other suite of services around rent assistance, tax prep, you name it. We're going to be bringing in and layering in all those other wraparound supports. And then we're also putting our heads behind these additional grocery food boxes for residents, either through DoorDash or other ways to get food to families, and not just families with kids, but any residents in the housing authorities. The YMCA, they are the sponsor for SFSP and CACFP meals. They lead the overall coordination of the meals for kids delivery and all the paperwork as a part of that. And they mobilize the AmeriCorps on a day-to-day basis, and they are working with us on expansion. The housing authorities have been really great partners in sort of allowing us entry into their communities and working with us to make sure we're doing things in a ways that make sense for each community. They largely help with resident signups and communications. They offer storage space for us to store equipment that's needed, and then of course help facilitate feedback so we can improve our services. And then lastly is Fair Start, and they are a meal preparation partner. They are a local nonprofit, and they have done an incredible job of adapting their meals to be more and more culturally appropriate as the months have gone on with the pandemic, and we're excited to be partnering with them in this as well. Here's some pictures of the housing site meal delivery. On the bottom right picture, you can see you can see a little Amazon logo there. The Amazon vans delivered the food from Fair Start, from the kitchens to the properties, and there's one of our AmeriCorps picking up the box of the meals. And then on the upper left picture, that's another AmeriCorps member who is loading the box in his car, and will sort of be making the rounds around the site. Some sites are quite big, and so you do need your car to get around and deliver the meals. One mother shared, mother of three shared, "You all were a blessing. My kids look out the window for the meals to arrive every day." And so this whole process is every day of the delivery and the delivery of meals. And then I do want to highlight AmeriCorps is such a big part of this work. A testimony from one of the AmeriCorps members who served with us this summer, and she's featured in the picture, Maylee, and this is a quote from her. "As a new graduate in this uncertain time, becoming an AmeriCorps member was truly a great experience. It was lovely to make connections with youth and their families so quickly, knowing a little more about them with each passing week. Serving seniors was also so rewarding, knowing that they have an extra meal to depend on and get some interaction with other people, if only for a moment. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity." And we continue to be so grateful for our AmeriCorps members, and they are really the ones out in the field doing this work day to day. And I think that quote sums up also how they feel about the opportunity. The impact. So as I mentioned, we're currently offering wraparound food supports at 14 properties. This includes providing youth meals to 1,800 youth per day and distributing USDA farmers to families produce boxes to 850 households weekly. This work continues to expand and is poised to reach 27 properties and over 4,000 total youth by January 2021. And that concludes my presentation. I am going to stop there and answer the questions you have, but in case you have additional questions, please feel free to send me an email, and I'm happy to connect with you. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.